seeing The Matrix Reloaded for the first time?
I recall seeing The Matrix Reloaded for the first time as though it was yesterday. And I
Okay.
even one more than that, I remember seeing the trailer for it. So The Matrix had obviously been a hugely formative film in the entire public consciousness. And then the trailer for The Matrix Reloaded was maybe the greatest trailer of like one of the top trailers in trailer history. I
Mhm.
must have watched that thing. I feel like that was my favorite movie. The trailer for The Matrix Reloaded was my favorite movie. It was so, I need to figure out how old I was because it felt like I was flying. I saw that trailer and I felt like alive in such an electric way. I'll never forget it.
Yeah. I also have very specific memories at that time, and like I think for the first Matrix being this like era-defining seismic shift in what happens with science fiction, like this totally new thing. And I think a lot of movies now have kind of moved away from taking risks, or it's all existing IP, people wanting to play it safe and know what will make money. But at the time, these two directors who had directed like one S&M themed lesbian movie, saying, yes, we're going to take a chance on this like outrageous concept, and it's gone, global. This thing is just taken over the world. It's such a huge success. So the pressure and the excitement building up when the second movie was going to come out was just like, oh,
Unbelievable. Yeah, it was such a the Matrix one was such a like culturally defining transformative moment. Also, because and the truth is that I come to these things by being like an action movie guy and
mm,
like a martial arts movie guy. Like
mhm.
my hero as a kid was Jackie Chan, and I watched every Jackie Chan movie. I was obsessed with martial arts movies, and I loved anime. And
Mm,
something about the Matrix, it was like this portal that was like such an incredible martial arts movie that
mhm.
also then like blew up the sci-fi space and really expanded my horizons. I feel like The Matrix and then The Matrix Reloaded by using the sort of gateway drug of martial arts like were hugely horizon expanding for me in general.
Yeah, and action, martial arts, and then having the series move into anime and like incorporating that in the world. But
The Animatrix. I could have
yeah,
also put the Animatrix could have just as easily been one of my sparks because I remember every short from the Animatrix in a really formative way. It
yeah,
really, and yeah, like the Matrix Reloaded, I often cite it as having like maybe four of the best 10, like maybe four of the top 10 action sequences of all time are like consecutive scenes in the Matrix Reloaded. It is like the greatest, I think perhaps the greatest action movie of all time.
and to that point, the first movie with bullet time developing this like super iconic, uh, so like oft copied, this thing that became this defining feature of action cinema, of science fiction, whatever, trying to like move on from that and develop something that was just as impressive, and developing new technologies to be able to make those things happen. Insane.
It's so incredible because you're like leaping and hoping the net will appear, right? Like
Mm.
they were developing. It's one of these beautiful things like George Lucas was doing with Star Wars or Spielberg's done throughout history, where the technology develops in order to accomplish a storytelling goal, right? It's like we
Mhm.
have a storytelling goal, we have a script, we have a scene on the page, and we have to figure out if we can do it. And I feel like The Matrix Reloaded was this perfect synthesis of pushing the limits right up to what was possible, right up to the edge of it. And then I feel like the Matrix 3 maybe pushed it a little too far and couldn't quite land the plane. The Matrix 2, it felt like they were cooking on such a they were knew exactly what they were capable of, and their ambition aligned perfectly with what they were capable of. Especially as you're saying, coming off the Matrix 1, which pushed it a little bit, and then there's a number of scenes in The Matrix 2 that were like inconceivably technologically impressive. The scale and scope of them was like impossible. The kind of, yeah, like almost animation techniques. The Matrix and the Matrix 2 like owe a lot of their DNA to anime, I think. And the sort of way in which those action sequences often kind of use an overlapping tapestry of animation and visual effects and practical photography. Um, Unbelievably cool. I also think from a performance aesthetic standpoint, like there's a bunch of performances throughout history that have kind of changed acting a little. Like everybody in my generation, we all watched the Heath Ledger Joker, and now we're all kind of constantly doing an impression of that all the time. Like it happens, or like we all watch Taxi Driver, and every performance after that is kind of a pale shadow, like an impersonation of De Niro in Taxi Driver. I think Heath Ledger's one of those as well in as the Joker. And I really think that the Agent Smith Hugo Weaving like is one of the like formative villain performances for an entire generation of films in sci-fi, in action, and everything. Like that is one of the greatest performances in history. I also think Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus is another one of these. There's like they're like archetype defining performances. Oh my God, yeah, Carrie Ann Moss, Trinity. There's like they're unbelievable. I've seen The Matrix Reloaded. I think also it was the most honest answer to the question of what is the spark for you, because I think I've probably seen it more than I've seen any other movie.
Oh,
And I would watch it. I like get goosebumps thinking about it. Incredible film.
yeah. That thing that you're saying about like specific performances becoming archetypes, it's like these in immensely talented people who do these things. Like I on Twitter the other day, somebody was saying like, "I'm really sorry, but I just don't find Richard Pryor funny. I don't know what the big deal is," and blah blah blah. And somebody responded and said like, "Look, that's because you are seeing it through the lens of all the other people who've copied him over the years. So it feels like this kind of boring, trite nothing, but it was revolutionary at the time. And it means that, the Travis Bickle, like De Niro saying, "Are you talking to me?" is such a cliche for a reason. It's this thing that just like exploded what was possible with acting and change the way that people look at specific kinds of cinema, film performance, whatever, all of these things. And it's the same kind of thing where you have this like iconic Lawrence Fishburne's, that leather jacket, the sunglasses,
Oh my
just
God.
what do you do?
It's unreal. Yeah, I wore a trench coat. I wore it in Mount Vernon, Iowa. I dyed my hair and wore a trench coat for like a year
I mean,
because of The Matrix. I really like it. It was so transcendent. Yeah, really iconographic. And yeah, you're right that there's these things that feel cliche because everything else is downstream of them.
mhm.
And The Matrix, that's one of these where you go back and watch and you're like, oh, it's like Kubrick or something. We're like, oh, nobody's done this still. Everybody's doing a pale impersonation of this. This still feels weirder, more interesting, and more novel than everything that is doing an impersonation of its sense. I cannot believe it.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Very good movie. I really obsess about it all the time. I make movies myself. I write, I act, and in every way, I feel like a constant point. There's like 5 sequences. I wonder if you experience this. There's sequences that kind of stick in your imagination and become prototypical expressions of a feeling or a sensation. Like, okay, in this moment, we're trying to achieve this kind of rhythm. You know what I mean? Like, and
Mm.
there's like a number of sequences from The Matrix that will always be like, oh, when I'm trying to describe a feeling or trying to describe a rhythm or a kind of moment, they're like the prototypical sequences for that thing, you know?
Yeah. And, the Wachowskis, when they talk about what they were trying to achieve with individual moments with the Matrix movies as a whole, it's like the Oracle or something where they like, there's almost this like synesthesia in the way they describe it, where it's like, it's like getting the mood of an idea and helping that to blossom into a transcendent, just like, listening to someone who's like consciousness is expanded far beyond what yours could possibly ever hope to. And those, like, there's a vagueness to it, but it's also a like they know exactly what they're trying to make people feel.
Yeah, and it's a really the effect when expertly done is really holistic. It's really hard to break into its constituent pieces. You know, like it's this is why things become like a spark, right? Is like there's
Mm,
an alchemy that's really hard to articulate. When you can see the architecture, it's when you can see the numbers of the matrix, it's
mhm,
easier to sort of pry apart and the feeling is less distinct and specific. When it's all holistically operating on a level that, well, for me, as somebody who like my whole life is movies, I watch those scenes and I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I know that the cumulative impact of it is an incredibly specific feeling. um and yeah, like that's also like filmmaking is a really useful articulation of this because there are so many individual constituent pieces at any moment. There's so many department heads. There's
mm.
about 200 people working to make the frame, and then another 100 people working to like bring that frame to an even deeper sense of life after the fact, and to be helming it in such a way that 300 people work in perfect concert to make something that is so holistically satisfying is like
Mm.
really an incredible gift of a direct it's a director's gift, is to be able to make something intangible out of like 300 pieces of tangible work, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and that goes back to what we were saying before about these like incredibly complex action sequences, all of these moving parts, and what you were saying about the matrix itself being like broken down into these little, you know, chunks of data that when you look at them, it's like the meaning isn't clear, and it's just like a wave of information. And with this, where it's like these super ambitious ideas, and when you see them, it's just like pure emotion and excitement, and the overwhelming sensory experience of watching them. But like any art, it can kind of be broken down into math and science. Music is really mathematical, but when you listen to it, you're not thinking of like beats per measure necessarily. You have this emotional experience. And with this movie, it's just like watching what all of these moving parts have achieved is just mind blowing. And again, directors who've come off of the success of the first movie and now can say, we've got money and we can do whatever we fucking want. And here it comes. So it's so exciting.
It's so crazy. I also, yeah, like everything, a lot of what we're saying applies to both films, and that it's like, applies to The Matrix and The Matrix Reloaded. I have
Sure.
to say, like, that feeling of excitement, because The Matrix is a very intellectual film. Like, it's very, like, the ideas present. And I think people really laud The Matrix and then criticize Reloaded because Reloaded is a much less, the ideas are less kind of forward in the mix. In the mix, it feels like they took the action slider and slid it to the absolute end. And just that
Yeah.
feeling you just described of like pure physical excitement. I think that was also what was so revelatory for me as a young person, was just like how, like, I felt like I was thrumming watching that whole movie. The very first sequence, I believe it's the cold open that culminates in Trinity going backwards out of the plate glass window at the top of the skyscraper with like two Uzis just like
Mhm.
jumping backwards and shooting up behind her. And then at the end of the film, or later it resolves and he catches her by flying across the entire world and then sticking his hand into her chest to start her heart again. There's like so many sequences in the movie that are like, I have never felt as excited. I wish I'll spend the rest of my life wishing for a movie to make me feel as like I was vibrating on the frequency that sequence makes me vibrate. Or the highway chase scene is impossibly good. The fact, talk about like the rule of, it's a rule in all storytelling, is like, hey, the sequel, it's got to get a little bit bigger. It's got a little get, and like from the very
Mhm.
beginning they're like, okay, in the first movie Neo struggles to fight one agent, and his big triumph is he manages to fight one agent to a relative standstill. Second movie, like the third scene is like, boom, he's got to fight three of them. Like, it's just such a perfect formula. It's such a like perfect escalatory formula that just kind of has this terrible momentum to it. I also
Mm.
think like a movie has never quite succeeded. Like making your bad guy scary is the premise of every action movie. It's like, or it's the spine of every action movie. Is the bad guy scary? Do you authentically fear? In order to have an immersive experience of an action scene, you have to believe that, you know, that the viper can lose that duel against the mountain. You have to believe that it's possible for them to die. And the Matrix does this incredible magic trick of just making the agents so scary. And
Mm.
every scene, like by killing half of the cast in the first film, they introduce you to this lovable cast of characters, and then they just massacre them one after another. Cypher unplugs like four of them in a row.
Mm.
It's just like they're so willing to kill their heroes, and their bad guys are so frightening. They're so like, because everybody also loves to do the robot thing. Everybody loves to do the like, I am an unfeeling antagonist. It's Terminator, right? It's Terminator and Terminator 2 that do it so successfully. But there's something about the like characterization and the world building and character building of the agents in the Matrix and the Matrix Reloaded, which is just really like unparalleled. There's the twins, with the dreadlocks, who wear the white trench coats and have dreadlocks and use switchblades and kind of teleport.
Mm. Yeah.
It's
No.
just the lore is crazy. It's like,
Mm.
what is, it's also such an anime thing. I really feel like the DNA of anime is all over this, because you watch it and they're like, hey, we're not going to get into why these guys exist. We're not going to get into what their whole deal is. You just need to know that they've got trench coat, switchblades, they teleport. They maybe can't both teleport at the same time. It's hard to tell. Don't worry about that. They're
Mm.
chasing you. It's like
Yeah.
such an incredible, forgive me, I get very excited talking about it, because it is also like when you catch these things, I feel like the premise of the podcast is like, you catch these, we are the final piece of the alchemy. The audience is the final piece of the alchemy, right? Is like sometimes something magical happens in you, some spark lights up while you're watching something. And this one for me is like very like, I still sort of feel that spark is still kind of cooking. It's like a trash fire or whatever that's like causing a crisis underneath at the landfill. You know what I mean? Like, this
Mm.
fire is unfortunately still burning down in there.
Yeah. Those two gigantic like tentpole action scenes, the highway, and there's a nickname for it, I can't remember, but where Neo is fighting off, 45 agents, whatever, all at the same time.
When they're all Agent Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
incredible.
and the amount of work that scene, it was like 27 days of filming, something like that, to get it done. And obviously the technology advances year on year, and now it would be much easier to do something like that. But that's a specific example of like developing technology explicitly for that moment, so that it's like as mind-blowing, eye-popping as it can be. And the same thing with that highway sequence, that it's like they built a 1.5-mile highway so that they could have free reign and do whatever they wanted. I think Chrysler was the company that donated like 300 cars so that they could just have cars to smash up. And all of these actors who were so dedicated to this project, who like throw themselves into it, every one of them broke bones, had concussions, whatever. Like, they were just falling apart. Lawrence Fishburne has said, like, it still hurts when I think about the Matrix. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I did a bunch, and it's, yeah, the world building is crazy, because it's Lawrence Fishburne and it's Jada Pinkett Smith playing Nairobi, whose name is maybe said one time. They're trying
Mm.
to protect the Keymaster, a guy that shows up for like, kind of that one sequence. Like, it's
Mhm.
over and over again. There's also like, in filmmaking, as a filmmaker, you're so often making these compromises, and you're going like, okay, how do we make this a little easier? We're constantly pushing at the edge of what's possible. We're running out of time. How can we make this a little easier? And I have so much adoration for the times that they just don't accept the easier version, because like everything in these sequences when you watch this is like, oh, you chose the most exciting version. You didn't choose the easier version. The much easier version of that giant Agent Smith fight where he's fighting 100 guys doesn't involve the like 360 sweeping, like they just like over and over again choose the most complicated and difficult thing to do. And it's also apparent, like the actor's sacrifice is apparent in this, because the real trick with action movies, hey, you've got an A-list actor in there. They're not actually a kung fu star. Chop it up. You know, just chop it into little pieces, get behind them, do it over the shoulder. They only have to put together a little sequence at a time. It's way easier. And in this, it's like, no, Keanu Reeves probably worked out for like 4 years. Basically, over and over again, they choose to do the much more difficult thing. They're like, and then the trick for why those old Hong Kong martial arts movies are so good is because everybody could actually do it. The Jackie Chan movies are so good because Jackie Chan could actually do it. We can stay wide and Jackie will actually do this entire sequence. And the trick for how we're going to do him falling through a table is he's just actually going to fall through a table. That's the trick. And like they do this over and over again in this movie because of the commitment of these actors. They're like, hey, we can stay nice and wide and we can actually have Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne kung fu fight each other with wires. Like we actually are committed to the hard version of it. And that kind of scope, there's very few auteurs who also work with scope, who like, and it's a sort of tragedy in the industry that very few people get to experiment with real scale like this, especially now. There's very, very little, as you mentioned earlier, like there's the financial pressures make it so very few people get to experiment with all the toys, unlimited budget, unlimited timeline. Do whatever you need to do. Just give me the coolest possible movie. That's like such a particular kind of sandbox that is so rare. And The Matrix Reloaded really feels like the action movie equivalent of blank check, as much time as you need, no big deal. Just give us the coolest shit that has ever happened in a movie. And then they did it like 6 times in that movie. Wow. I get really excited. We haven't even talked about the stairwell. There's the double staircase fight scene with all the weapons on the walls. I'm telling you, 4 of the best 10 action sequences in history. There's like they keep going. There's the parking garage fight that then evolves into the highway fight, but even the parking garage version of it is crazy. It's just demented, just over and over again. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm speechless. It's just, it's a remarkable landmark defining moment in the history of cinema.
Absolutely. And it defies it because it has the kind of holistic impact that is hard to break into its constituent pieces. It describes a description, and that the best sort of way to like the best, you just go watch it. You can just go watch all. I watch on YouTube. I watch Trinity going backwards out of that window like twice a week. It should be my alarm on my phone. I should just wake up to that sequence over. Because it's also so cool. It mirrors, there's the sequence in the first one of the great action sequences of all time, where they're stuck in the drywall. Mouse gets killed. They're trying to get out. They're stuck in the drywall. The entire movie, you've just heard over and over again, run from agents. They'll kill you. You'll lose. It's over. And Morpheus goes, get out of here. And he goes through the wall and tackles Hugo Weaving onto the ground or maybe he tackles him onto the ground. That sequence where he's just desperation, he just yells. He's inside the drywall and he just like screams and goes through it. Trinity like jumping backwards through like the 40th story of this building, being like, I'm going to die, but I'm going to shoot you 1,000 times. It's like the coolest. She's just like, okay, it's over. I'm gonna kill you, and jumps backwards with the 2 Uzis. It's the coolest thing that's ever happened.
I think reminding people that these things are available on YouTube, that you can watch them anytime you want, as many times as you want, is a wonderful, wonderful way to finish up. I've been saying this a lot lately. I've been talking to a lot of people who understand the assignment. It's refreshing and wonderful for me. It makes my job very easy. But talking to somebody who is so excited to talk about what they've brought to me, it's the time just flies. It's like conversation flows. Wonderful. So thank you for your enthusiasm, and thank you for making time for me. This has been really great.
Thank you. I feel almost so excited that I'm post language to the point that I'm just sort of excitedly shrieking. I'm just kind of going and jumping through the drywall. You know, like that's really how I feel. I get so hype talking about this movie. So thank you for the privilege of gabbing about The Matrix Reloaded. Go watch it right now.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're out there listening right now, stop listening at this exact moment and go watch The Matrix Reloaded.
Yes.
Incredible movie.
Agreed. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. What a treat.
Hey, do you want more conversations with incredible people talking about the movies and music they love? Then subscribe to the Spark Parade YouTube channel.